It's done. Trump just killed America. And while his critics are celebrating, while the media is declaring victory, while even his supporters are starting to doubt, economic suicide, unhinged decisions, destroying the economy, and the GDP growth in just 2 months has slowed significantly, with some estimates suggesting a sharp decline in economic activity in key sectors. But what if they're all being played? What if every headline, every market crash, every chaotic decision is exactly what Trump wants the establishment to think? What if they're all blind to the bigger game being played? Think about it. When was the last time you saw the entire financial establishment, Wall Street, the Federal Reserve, foreign banks, major media, all united in panic over one man's economic decisions? Even Larry Kudlow, Trump's ex-economic advisor, hinted at this on CNBC last month. Disruption is the goal, he said. The establishment hates it, but insiders, they see the method in the madness. They're not panicking because Trump is destroying the economy. They're panicking because he's about to change the entire game. I've been watching all of this unfold just like you, and I've been connecting the dots, and I think I see something most people are missing. I don't have some special White House hotline or anything. This is just me looking at the patterns. But once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Let me show you what I think everyone is missing. And we'll start with what happened last week. Trump slapped a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, as Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick recently confirmed.
President Trump previously announced 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Are those still going to take effect Wednesday? Yes or no?
Yes.
The media called it reckless. Wall Street called it dangerous. But they're all missing something crucial. This isn't new. Look at the 19th century. America used tariffs to protect its infant industries, outpacing Britain to become an industrial giant.
Well, if you look at the history of tariffs and industrial development, virtually every country that is successfully industrialized has done it by initially protecting their industries by tariffs, other measures, and so on.
Trump's just dusting off a proven playbook. You see, these tariffs aren't just about metal prices. They're not even about trade deficits. They're about completely rewiring how money flows through the global economy. I mean, sure, China might slap tariffs back. They've done it before. But here's the deal. Trump's counting on America becoming less dependent on exports and more self-sufficient. Even during his first term, Larry Kudlow explained the strategy.
I think President Trump has shown all of us that, you have a policy to defend the American economy and the American worker. He's shown us that tough negotiation as a means to the end works. And tough negotiation includes tariff.
Exports are only 12% of our GDP. Compare that to Germany's 47%. We can take the hit and rebuild faster than they can adapt. And think about this. For the last 40 years, we've built our entire economy on one simple formula. Buy cheap goods from overseas, keep interest rates low, and fuel consumption through debt. We didn't just lose manufacturing, we lost the entire ecosystem that supported it. But what happens when you suddenly make it 25% more expensive to import steel and aluminum, with signals of tariffs potentially reaching 20% across the board if his plans fully roll out? Cynics say this takes decades, and true, the full ecosystem won't flip in a year, not even within a term. But it's already starting. Look at TSMC's $40 billion Arizona plant, or steel firms expanding in the Midwest. As CNBC reported last year,
total construction spending in the manufacturing sector has seen an increase of over 106% since November 2021, when the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed. That means the U.S. has spent more money building factories than schools, healthcare centers, and even office buildings.
Trump's not building from scratch. He's accelerating what's already in motion. It's not just about one company moving back to America. You're forcing an entire economic ecosystem to rebuild itself. Suppliers, they've got to move closer to production. Raw material producers, they need to scale up. Logistics companies must rebuild domestic networks. Technology firms have to retool for American manufacturing. Dozens of support industries need to spring up around them. This isn't just reshoring, this is rebuilding the entire backbone of American production. But here's where it gets really interesting. These tariffs, they're just the first piece of a much larger strategy. One that becomes crystal clear when you understand the second major shift that's already in motion. Trump's proposed tax cuts. No tax on tips, Social Security benefits, or overtime pay. These aren't just promises. They're the fuel he's planning to ignite a manufacturing boom. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recently outlined this exact approach at the Economic Club of New York.
Perhaps having full expensing will create a window, and perhaps having full expensing of factories within that window. So equipment and factories to create American jobs.
Wall Street's yelling inflation. Sure, prices might rise short term, but more domestic production means more supply. Econ 101 says that tames inflation over time. Trump's playing the long game. These tax cuts could unlock serious cash. Eliminating taxes on tips alone could put $10 billion back in workers' pockets annually. That's not pocket change. That's factory building fuel. Will Congress play ball? Maybe not easily, but Trump's got a track record. Look at the 2017 tax cuts. He'll lean on executive orders or rally his base to pressure lawmakers. This isn't about smooth sailing. It's about forcing the change through sheer will. Think about it. When all these companies start moving production back to America, where's the money going to come from? To build new factories, to rebuild supply chains, to hire American workers, to recreate entire industries from scratch. This is where these tax cuts become brilliant. By freeing up billions in capital, Trump isn't just giving people more spending money, he's creating the fuel for the biggest manufacturing renaissance in American history. But here's what most people haven't connected yet. These tax cuts, combined with the tariffs, are pushing us towards something we haven't seen in 150 years. A complete transformation in how Americans are taxed. Under the current system, you get taxed heavily when you earn money, which encourages people to earn less and companies to produce elsewhere. But under this new system that's taking shape, you get taxed when you spend money, especially on imported goods. This creates three massive shifts in behavior. First, you encourage saving and investment. Why? Because the less you consume, the less you're taxed. Suddenly, that new imported car comes with a hefty tariff tax. But investing in American companies building domestic factories, that becomes more attractive. Second, you create what economists call local economic multipliers. When that manufacturing comes back, it's not just factory jobs. It's engineering jobs to design the facilities, construction jobs to build them, transportation jobs to move materials, service jobs to support the workers, and dozens of other ripple effects throughout the local economy. But there's a third piece to this puzzle that's making economists nervous. Something that, at first glance, seems to contradict everything that we've talked about. Everyone expected Trump to slash government spending. After all, that was a big part of his campaign promises. But look what's actually happening. Instead of slashing spending across the board, Trump's floating targeted investments, like workforce programs, to jumpstart this transformation, even if it bucks the traditional conservative playbook. On the surface, this looks like complete chaos. How can you rebuild American manufacturing, transform the tax system, and keep government spending high? But what if, just like a chess master sacrificing his queen, this apparent contradiction is actually the most brilliant move of all? Right now, the government makes up 30% of our entire GDP. That's nearly 1/3 of our entire economy. And most people think Trump's ignoring this problem. But here's what they're missing. We're standing at a crossroads where three possible scenarios could play out. Scenario one, the pessimists could be right. The rapid shift triggers a recession. Companies struggle to rebuild supply chains. Prices spike before domestic production catches up. We see a painful transition where both businesses and consumers feel the squeeze. Scenario two, the optimists could be right. The combination of tariffs and tax cuts triggers a manufacturing renaissance. American innovation kicks in, leading to more automated, efficient production. We see a boom in high-paying jobs and domestic investment. But here's scenario three, and this is what I think most people are missing. We could see both happen simultaneously. Consider that certain sectors of the economy are going through serious pain while others experience unprecedented growth. Critics say this will spark chaos. Price spikes, a recession. Fair point. Former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned,
if we were to compromise the credit rating of the United States and even worse, to default on the debt, I think that would have an adverse impact on the dollar's use as a reserve currency.
But chaos is the point. Every major economic shift, like the Industrial Revolution, came with pain before gain. The difference? Trump's betting on American grit and innovation to outpace the squeeze. Look at steel towns already seeing investment spikes. Pain in some sectors is birthing growth in others. While the GDP has slowed significantly, we're also seeing certain industries and regions experiencing explosive growth. What we're witnessing isn't random policy chaos. It's a chance to witness a sequenced reboot of America's economic engine. The mainstream media just doesn't want you to see it. So here's the master plan in 3 steps. Step 1, tariffs force production home. Step 2, tax cuts fund the rebuild. Step 3, strategic government spending bridges the gap until private industry takes over. When you see it laid out like this, suddenly all the unhinged decisions start looking like calculated moves in a much bigger game. This kind of economic transformation creates what I call opportunity pockets, specific areas and industries where wealth is being created while other areas struggle. The key to not just surviving but thriving in this environment is understanding where these pockets are forming. So here's what all this means for you right now. If you're watching this video, chances are you're feeling what millions of other Americans are feeling. That knot in your stomach every time you check your retirement account. That anxiety about whether your savings will mean anything in 6 months. That frustration of watching prices go up while your money seems to buy less and less. And let's be honest, the traditional advice isn't cutting it anymore. Just keep your money in the market, wait it out, trust the system. Just this week, the CEO of BlackRock and the CEO of JP Morgan met in Washington with lawmakers to discuss the collapse of the 401k. The system, it's fundamentally changing right before our eyes. Here's the reality. During massive economic transformations like what we're seeing right now, there are really only 2 types of people. Those who get crushed by the change and those who position themselves to profit from it. While most financial advisors are telling you to sit tight and hope for the best, I'm doing something different. Something that's already helping regular people protect and grow their wealth during these uncertain times. I'm flying a small group of people out to Vegas. Yeah, flight and hotel, that's on me, for an intensive 2-day event. You can get the full details at intensive2025.com. But here's the short version. I'm showing this small group of investors exactly how to convert vulnerable assets like stocks and cash into recession-resistant real estate investments, access up to $150,000 in zero-interest funding, even if you don't have money to start, follow a step-by-step playbook that takes all the guesswork out of finding your first deals, protect yourself from costly mistakes with proper contracts and LLC setup, and most importantly, position yourself to potentially profit from these massive economic shifts instead of being victimized by them. And this isn't just theory. I've got students, everyday people, who are pulling in $25,000 on their first deals and building million-dollar portfolios without dealing with tenants or toilets. For 3 months after the event, I'm personally holding your hand through your first deals to make sure that you succeed. But here's the thing. We're incredibly selective about who gets in. We've only got 10 spots available, and you need at least a 680 credit score to qualify. No collections or bankruptcies in the last 7 years. Why? Because we're not just teaching theory. We're giving you access to actual funding and proven systems that work. If you're looking to protect and grow your wealth during these uncertain times, go to intensive2025.com for the details and further instructions on how to join us. Whether you join us in Vegas or not, make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date with one of the biggest economic transformations in history. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.